You don't need millions to get started. Control your schedule, control your destiny. You have a lot more control versus being an employee and then eventually selling it. I put in a lot of hours up front so that all the sweat equity was in that first year so I can really back off the second year.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, the show where we help corporate executives experience time and financial freedom. Thanks for joining us. We're continuing the series of these short solo episodes, really covering some hot topics, the questions that we're getting on a daily basis. And the title of today's episode is Top Misconceptions About Franchise Ownership and the Truths Behind Them. We're really excited to dive in. So we're going to bust some myths, clear confusion, eliminate some false objections early on in the journey here. What are the 5 key areas we're going to be discussing today? Number one in these misconceptions, and the number one by far, I would say this takes of the top 10, probably the top 5, is that franchising is only in fast food. And that is one of the top misconceptions. The reason people think of that is, and when I first started over 20 years ago, I thought the same, was you tend to see the signs on the way to work, on the way to and from work, driving around, the big signs, the big restaurants and things like that. And there's a ton of them. They've been around for a long time. But that's not necessarily the right fit for everyone. When I ask people what draws you to fast food, aside from the big name, they say everyone's got to eat, which is true, right? There's definitely a demand for the product because everyone does actually have to eat at least 2 or 3 times a day. So what type of franchises are there? I mean, there's 4,000 franchises in 70 industries. So that should really kind of show you exactly what's out there. So there's B2B and B2C concepts. There's executive recruitment. There's, let's see, what else? Expense reduction. There's senior care, and there's medical care and non-medical. There's dog waste removal, mobile pet grooming. You got all your foods. There are actually food franchises that don't even have a kitchen. It's more of a coaching type of franchise where their food is brought in from the franchisor, from their facilities. There's mobile food where you don't need a brick and mortar, using more of a food truck trailer, selling donuts and drinks and things like that, kind of simplifying the number of staff and inventory and things like that. My gosh, the list goes on. Water and smoke mitigation, painting, cleaning, haircuts, tanning, hair, nail, all that kind of stuff. So massages, really there, if you can think of a business, there's a franchise. And I always say you want to be interested in the service, the widget, whatever it is, but ultimately you want to make sure the fit's there. And number 2, you need millions to get started. That is absolutely false. And that's typically goes back to fast food, especially if you're in a single location, non-attached. There's going to have somebody, you're looking at a potential 7-figure plus investment. You get a boutique, small fitness franchise, hair cutting, things like that. Now in a strip mall, that's going to significantly reduce that investment. You get into non-brick and mortar, again, water and smoke mitigation, painting, senior care, and things like that. Or maybe an office is needed eventually, but not initially. The investments you're looking could be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. It could be less, could be more. And that's really everything you need to get up and running and trained for the first 90 days, all the working capital and things like that. And that'll vary based off of the number of employees that are involved, W-2 versus contractor, if trucks or vehicles and equipment are needed. And if you're going to be hiring a general manager out the gate. For some of these, an SBA loan will require 20 to 30%. You may need to be putting down $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, depending on the franchise, the fees, and the investment. You don't need millions to get started. Or on a side note, we'll have a liquidity net worth requirement, which is different than the actual investment, but there are plenty of funding strategies, including if you qualify retirement, home equity lines of credit, even a loan on your non-retirement investments, which is kind of cool. We've been getting a lot of calls on how that works. More than happy to discuss. All right, number 3, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. Listen, it's a business. A franchise is giving you the blueprint and the guide for you to run with and follow. The franchisor is not going to run the business for you. So initially, it is a lot of work. There's an investment of money and capital, but there's also sweat equity. There's time that you're investing to learn that franchise, find the right employees. Maybe the first hire isn't the right hire and there's a little bit of turnover. That's okay. That happens in business ownership. Expect it. The way to look at it is more of a mindset shift and looking at it. I'll do whatever it takes to get the business up and running so that all the right systems are in place, the right people are in place, equally as important, so that I can manage the manager and not have to be involved full time. I can manage remotely, meet with the manager via Zoom at a coffee shop once a week or in the office. There are different models out there. Semi-absentee will have you potentially working less, keeping a job. And then there's full-time ownership where you're essentially running the business at least for the first 6 months to a year. That's not a bad idea. It's the way I did it. I put in a lot of hours up front so that all the sweat equity was in that first year so I can really back off the second year. But not everyone has the ability to leave their job the first year, and that's totally fine. So you got some options there. I'll lose my freedom. Well, I guess what does that even mean? And there's financial and time freedom are the top two. Again, it's setting the expectation. The first year, are you going to make a ton of money the first year? It's going to be that first year. You really want to reinvest the profits back into the business to help it grow so that all the systems are in place so that you can scale back your time. The time freedom, you're going to be working a lot of hours, at least that first year, or at least the first 6 months. So let's fast forward the first year and knowing what you need to get in place. And if you need a general manager, start working day one. What are the roles you'll play in the business? What will they play in the business? Constantly changing them. I always keep a Google Doc. That's a live document that we can edit. Sometimes something comes up that no one thought about that needs to be added to the list. So you're not losing your freedom. Just the expectation is you're investing time and resources and capital and everything else involved so that you can create this time freedom to do what you want, when you want, and have the right teams in place. Even with the franchise, this does not happen overnight. Can it happen? Absolutely. I'm a product of that. I've done that myself. It just takes time. Don't expect it to open the franchise, launch, and have time freedom. You may be working more hours than you were working at your job. Franchisees are just buying a job. I got that question the other day. If you're going to run the business on your own and hustle, if you're the franchise and you're the brand and you're doing, for example, executive coaching or expense reduction, and you're not working with any other franchisees or bringing on any additional coaches, you're going to be doing everything. So if you're not around, if you're off, then work isn't getting done to an extent. There's going to be systems in place, and depending on what the franchisor is. So the mindset is you're going to have to build out a small team, and they don't even have to be W-2 employees. They could be 1099 coaches that will get a percentage of sales, that whatever they bring, whatever you're netting, you split it 50-50 or 75-25, whatever the numbers are. So I don't believe a franchise, you're buying a job. And if that's how you feel about it, then maybe that's not the franchise for you. I don't believe in buying a job. You're buying this vehicle, investing in this vehicle that will help you gain back that time and financial freedom, make some extra money, control your schedule, control your destiny. You have a lot more control versus being an employee and then eventually selling it. We talked about this in actually one of the blogs a while back, but do you want to sell this for multiple retire? You want to build a legacy and pass it down to the kids? Hey, these are all options, and things can change down the road, and that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out, but these are things to kind of think about. If you're still unsure, there's still some lacking of some clarity, let's chat. Let's review your goals. Let's figure out if a franchise is a good fit. ggthefranchiseguide.com. Book a call. Simple as that. 20 minutes, we'll figure out together if a franchise is the right fit. There's zero cost ever. There's no contracts. It could save you a lot of time and headaches. But definitely we could talk about in a little bit more detail any of these misconceptions or myths that we talk about all the time. Thanks again for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate all your questions. And we got 3 more episodes in the series. And again, looking forward to your feedback. So if you have any questions or like me to dive in a little bit deeper, we could discuss it on our call. You can send me a message, a DM, whatever's easier for you. This really helps me because I want to answer and address questions you have to make this the best experience possible. Thanks again for your support, guys. Talk to you soon. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.